Doc, how are you, man?
Doing all right.
Last time I saw Bad Wolves, you guys were here in Grand Rapids, Michigan with Asking Alexandria and Papa Roach. I brought my oldest son to the meet and greet, and I just wanted to thank you again for how kind you and the rest of the guys were toward him.
Of course. I mean, thank you for attending the meet and greet. And I remember that show. That was an incredible show. So that was a good time. But no, all thanks to you, brother.
Well, the performance that night was stellar, but you guys also had a very positive message coming from the stage. And at the time, that was something my boy really needed. He had been going through some stuff with his mom and all that. But that show had a huge impact on him in a positive way, and he has been dialed in ever since. Now that Bad Wolves have a new mouthpiece with new singer DL, will that positive message continue moving forward?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in general, what makes music important to me, what makes kind of the culture of rock and metal and hardcore and punk is all about kind of that collective energy. I think that we all experience when we get into a room together, and whether it's through lyrical content or just that kind of almost primitive thing about this music that kind of moves you and connects to you, it's all about positivity. I mean, I think in many ways, I think the positive elements and what we want to do with that is going to even increase. So I hope it will, because that's really the point of all this, is to make our lives better and more connective. And, and especially it's been a very difficult time for millions and millions of people, right? So we're all looking for that release. We're looking for that thing that's going to help us make our day just a little bit better, right?
Speaking of releases, you guys had a busy year. You made a new album. It's called Dear Monsters. It comes out this Friday. You and the rest of the guys in Bad Wolves have to be excited to finally get this thing out.
It feels like pushing up a boulder up the largest mountain you've ever heard of. So, I mean, in many ways, just the fact that this album exists feels like such a tremendous accomplishment all on its own. And, like any artist or creator, you work really hard on something, you do your best to make it as good as it can be, and then this is the point where we get to share it with people. And the promotional tactics have been a little different, where a lot of bands usually they'll release 4 or 5 songs before the album comes out, but right now there's only one song really out there in all platforms, and then another song's on YouTube, and outside just clips. So really, when the album comes out on Friday, it's like people are really going to get to experience everything we've done, like all at the same time. So that's an exciting prospect.
Now, before we get more into Dear Monsters, you also added a new member to the family with Daniel DL. Hope I get this right, Laskowitz. Did Bad Wolves audition a ton of guys, or did you have DL in mind all along?
Well, ironically, he was the first person when we knew there was a slot available. He was the first person that made a submission, and it was excellent. And it kind of eased our mind right away, knowing right out of the gate we have something really, really, really high caliber. But we still went through the process of auditioning people and checking people out. And it wasn't just men. We had some ladies try out as well. And there was a lot of very, very talented people. It wasn't just like, hey, this is exactly what it is. But ultimately, it was a unanimous decision, and everyone felt like and feels like DL is the right guy for the job. I mean, and outside of just being an amazing singer, he's an incredible guitar player. He's an incredible producer. He's an incredible songwriter. And we have just great chemistry amongst all of us. He really felt like one of the guys, really, from the moment he stepped in the room. And he's just a good person. He's a family man. He has kids. He has a wife. He has a house. He's kind of, he's very tethered to reality and to the real world. And it's nice to just be around someone who is just, not wrapped up in any BS. It's all just about being homies, which is great.
Now, I will say, in hearing the new single Lifeline, Bad Wolves still sounds like Bad Wolves.
That's the point. I mean, and that was really the thing that put it over the edge for him, was he was the one person where when we listened to it, it felt most like the band, because, we were definitely worried about if you change it too much, right? Do people feel less connected to what the band is? We knew musically and sonically those elements were still going to be there, but most normal people connect to a band through the vocalist and the voice, right? That's the most kind of humanistic component that people relate to. So, and that was something that just seemed to fit. And I can say, I can try to be as objectively as possible. Of course, I'm not objective. But when I listen to the record, it just feels like the logical next step for the band musically. So I think generally, if someone's open-minded, I think they'll understand that.
You had mentioned that DL plays guitar and has a lot to offer. Moving forward, will there ever be a chance that he puts on a 6, 7, or an 8 string at some point?
You never know. I mean, it's funny that he wrote a song for the album that ended up being a B-side. So it's not on the album, and it's tuned to like drop Z. It's the lowest tuned thing ever. So if anyone's going to drop an 8 string in this band, it's probably going to be DL, but the truth is when you get a new member in the fold that has all these different skill sets, I say, open that up to whatever makes sense. If he wants to pick up a guitar on stage, pick up a guitar. The more the merrier. Less work for me.
Having that extra capabilities that DL has, now you guys had pretty much this new record, if I'm mistaken, maybe it was kind of already laid out and he came in and did vocals on it? Or did you guys build from ground up? No,
because essentially when the split happened, we went even though we were involved in the audition process, we also went back into writing mode. There was a quote unquote record at that time, but we got rid of about 40% of those songs. And then even some of the songs that made the record that persisted, we made a lot of changes and then wrote a bunch of new material on top of that. So it was about 60-40. And there was a bunch of stuff that we wrote, even the last few months that were in the contention for the record that we're just going to hold for our next record. So it's definitely a combination of a lot of stuff that pre-existed and then kind of getting into new stuff, which is really the more exciting thing because in a way we didn't really get to start with a completely blank slate. And that's exciting, knowing the next time we can go, hey, we can do whatever we want. And we can really create an environment that's really collaborative and open and just hey, you got a song, let's hear that. You got a song, let's hear that. And let's work together. And it's already shown the chemistry between us all from a working and just a workflow state is great and really productive.
Now, going back to your first album, Disobey, and one of my favorites is the opening track, Officer Down. It is so brutally heavy. And that being said, what other tracks off Dear Monsters do you think I or someone who gravitates to some of the heavier sides of you guys will be into?
Well, definitely I feel like the opening track, Sacred Kiss, it's a lot of speed, a lot of energy, really super heavy breakdown in the middle, but kind of combines everything the band does. But I think it's unequivocally the heaviest song on the record is a song called On the Case. It's about halfway through the album. I mean, it might be the heaviest song the band has ever done. It's the one song where DL kind of screams the most in it. And he has a really brutally heavy voice. So I think that's one song called Classical, which is, I think, track 11 on the record, has a really, no pun intended, classic Bad Wolves, cool riff. But I mean, I'd say overall, I think the album is a little more streamlined. I think we love the Officer Downs and Learn to Live and songs like that. But I think we also want to move forward as a band and not just repeat what we've done and kind of do stereotypical kind of metalcore style. And so this is I think us also trying to mature a little bit. And so there's the super heaviest song you've ever heard. And then there's some ballads on the song as well. So we kind of cover all the bases, and I hope you like all of it.
I've loved both the records, so I'm excited about this new record for sure. Right
on. But yeah, we try and ride that line and make sure there's enough. Even with Lifeline, I feel like that's heavier than a lot of the songs we brought to radio, and that was on purpose. It was to kind of give the commercial stuff a little more edge, and then maybe stuff that's super heavy, make sure it's catchy enough so that people can kind of find that wave to ride, so that everything kind of covers all bases.
Well, aside from making a new record, finding a new singer during a pandemic, Doc, did you manage to do anything you have not done in a long time that you really enjoy outside of music during the pandemic?
That's a good question. What have I done? I mean, unfortunately, I feel like so many people, I spent a lot of time inside and, I'm trying, I guess, if anything, so I have a podcast and called The X-Man. And because I was doing that show, I got hired to do another show called Last Words. So it was like a web show. So I was it was like this joint podcast where we were talking about music and stuff, but it was on camera. So I had to actually almost do my own TV show from home. So that was a new experience where I had to kind of play to a camera and kind of be a presenter, and that was interesting. The show got canceled not that long ago, but I did that for almost a year. So that was a really, really interesting experience. And I also say just, the band started a Patreon page, and we did a lot of like live streaming and created a lot of content for that. And that was really cool, kind of understanding during this time that we can find all these avenues to connect with fans, whether that's through live streaming or Q&As or all kinds of things where, through social media where you can really create a more intimate relationship. And you really get, the fans really get to know you a lot better. We had to figure out ways. And even though touring is coming back and all that stuff, I don't think any of that stuff is really going to go anywhere. So that's about it. I've definitely spent a lot of too much time at home. I'm ready to go back to stuff I was doing, like touring.
Well, we can't wait till you come back and see us here in Grand Rapids, Doc.
Likewise, I can't wait to get back there, too. I'm hearing things. I'm hearing about some touring opportunities, maybe getting locked up. So hopefully we can announce some stuff soon because it is getting the itch like no other to get on the road, and especially with a new album. You want to, the job is not complete until we play these songs live and really connect with people on that level.
Well, Bad Wolf's new album, Dear Monsters, comes out Friday. Any last words, Doc, to the fans before I turn you loose?
I just send gratitude to anyone who's stuck with us through this tough time. There's been a lot of contention and difficulty with all that, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so it means the world. Just anyone that wants to support the band and check out the record. And listen, I think people just are going to really like the record because it's got a little bit of everything. And I think it's the best songwriting the band has ever done. So,
well, Doc, thank you so much for the time. I do appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it as well. You have an excellent, excellent day. Thank you so much.